What's up, folks? And we're back. So, in my last Scum video, I talked about wanting to tackle the how to counter Gina and Braylen Strom. There were a couple players in some of the social media channels this week who were pretty frustrated at how good this pair is. So, just to look at it, this is the standardized loadout for Gina Moonsong and Braylen Strom from Battle over Endor. They are B-Wings. Gina's 5 points, Braylen is 4, so we now could actually run two 4-point B-Wings if you kind of turn off some of these abilities, which is pretty cool. But a couple quick things about this. I'm going to focus mostly on Gina because, truth be told, Braylen is basically there to power her up. But both of them have a couple abilities, and the biggest one, the reason people are talking about them the most, even though the combo is 9 points, is they both have an ability where if the other one is at range 0 to 2 and stressed of the other one, they get a free mod, right? So if Gina, as at range 0 to 2 of stressed Braylen, gets a free target lock. If Braylen is at range 0 to 2 of stressed Gina, gets a free focus. So it always annoys me a little bit that they're different, but I do kind of like that thematically. It just makes it a little bit hard to keep track of. But Gina is slightly more powerful in that she has proton torpedoes and is initiative 5, and also has juke, of course, where Braylen is initiative 4 and has homing missiles. And they both have the chassis abilities where they can, after they gain a stress token, they can spend 2 charges, and they have 2 recurring charges to gain an evade token, which is just an evade for Braylen, but activates juke for Gina. And then they also can alternatively spend a single charge from their 2 recurring charges to drop a bomb to their right or left side. So they can drop bombs sideways, which gives them a pretty broad coverage to place bombs, and does make them a little bit harder to flank on the sides. And they already have bombs, so they're harder to flank from behind because bombs. They also both have the talent It's a Trap, where while defending, if there are more other friendly ships than enemy ships at range 0 to 1, you may reroll one of your blank results, which is nice, especially if they're defending at range 3, because they only have 1 native defense die. Gina has ion bombs, Braylen has proton bombs. Braylen also has delayed fuses, so he's a stronger bomber. That's something to watch out for. And Gina being able to double mod proton torpedoes plus juke in a single turn makes her really, really hit hard. Or she can just hit with her primary attack if she manages to lose the lock, and that's still something, but it's less. Braylen alternatively has homing missiles, which I personally don't find anywhere near as scary, because most of the time any ship is going to be like, whatever, you threw a double modded attack at me, I'll take 1 damage. Unless it's already damaged or an ace or low health. I mean, that he shoots after Gina is an advantage, because if she gets something limping and he hits it with the homing missile attack, they have to either gamble on the die roll or just take the damage and die. So that's the one sort of edge case where it might be worth it, but mostly you bring Braylen to charge up Gina and maybe drop some bombs. So there's that. So how do you counter these, right? So they're 9 points for one, so they cost a lot to do. They're heavy jousters. While they do have some defense against flankers, the dial sucks. So B-Wing dials are slow, they're full of stress, and despite the fact that these two want to be stressed, they don't have anything built in that actually helps them remove stress. So they can get stressed and stay stressed and get the free mods for it, but then struggle with doing actions or maneuvers. So you can chase them, you can catch them off guard, you take a bomb or two, but it's really not as bad if in return you get to take these down. So yeah, so long and the short of it, shoot them, flank them. But a couple things I want to keep in mind is that they are still vulnerable to jam, because they have a bunch of opportunity to build extra abilities here. But if you hit one with a jam, they have to choose either the lock, the focus, or the evade when they have it, right? So say Gina does a focus and then spends the 2 to get an evade. You jam her with an I5 or higher, and suddenly she has to choose keep the evade or keep the focus. And then she won't, and she'll still get the free target lock though, which is something to watch out for, unless somehow you catch her not having done either of the other actions. Maybe she dropped a bomb, maybe she started stressed, so she will still get the lock. So you jam her when she starts the turn stressed, and then she won't get anything. So that's a really bad spot for Gina, where she just has an unmodded 3-die primary, and that's it. But yeah, a couple things I want to talk about here. These are standardized loadouts from a campaign box, and that's something that's easy to forget. So if we're looking at ways to counter these, one of the big things you want to look at is what else came in the box with them. And there we're looking at the Empire box. So a couple things. If we look at these, we'll see some consistency here, right? So Hebsley gets free evade tokens to help dodge, get elusive, so it's very, very durable. No escape for offensive mods. and then has the option to perform free boost actions. So here you've got mobility is the way that Hebsley will kind of avoid dealing with those ships, and then also has the stress control, so you can do that barrel roll link evade and then still get the stress removed, so then can do red maneuvers or red actions in the following turn. Or that also mitigates the ability is that you can do the red boost and end up with 2 stress, and then the formed up will let you remove one of them. So big thing there is mobility. That's the thing you kind of include as a way to play around the B-Wings. And so every one of these we're looking at like, how does this counter the B-Wings? And not all ships will, but you will see abilities in here that are designed to play against the B-Wings. So Scythe 6 is mostly offense, rolls extra attack dice with the reroll from No Escape. Predator, oof, man, nasty. But here, so you can do a K-turn, a long K-turn, and then twice per game you can do an action, such as a focus. Only has focus, doesn't have target lock. But then you've also got that wipe from an attack. So this ship, if I were looking at this, like how would I play this against the B-Wings, you get in somewhat close, and then you go for that long K-turn where you get the focus predator shot from the rear on one of those B-Wings. So you can take them down pretty quickly if you start stacking that stuff in there. Also has targeting matrix, which is to give the... Oh, that's nice. I mean, it's an initiative too, so that's a bummer. But while attacking, you may spend 1 eyeball result at the end of the neutralize result step. If you do, after the attack is resolved, the defender gains 1 strain token. Really good. The I-2 holds it back. These are interesting ships, and they all have kind of big weaknesses in addition to their strengths. Let's see. Major Mienda. This one allows you to move other ships. So there's that mobility being the key piece where you'd play around the B-Wings. Get out of arcs, dodge around them, get behind them. Has that combination of Ruthless and Swarm tactics, so Mienda is a great one to fly with Scythe 6, so you can get that targeting matrix to put a strain at high initiative. Yeah, so you can use Swarm tactics to raise any other ship nearby up to initiative 5. They have that formed up, so they also benefit in addition to that by getting the additional stress removal. So that is great. But yeah, so like Ruthless for the free damage, just like numbers game where you outnumber the B-Wings, which they have a double modded proton torpedo and then 1 other gun, but they are not shooting twice per turn. That's a single shot each. So they're not doing any bonus attacks. They maybe get a bomb off, but so their offense is somewhat limited and slow, especially since Gina only has 2 proton torpedoes ever and then they're done. Then we're looking at the bombers and we see similar things going on here. And here, they better hope they don't tank those proton torpedoes because they're going to go down. But let's see. They also get free target locks. They have proton torpedoes back. They also have bombs. The Gina and Braylen don't want to be ioned. And then they also have some crit management, which doesn't really help because of the volume of shields that the B-Wings have. Get Scimitar 3, same thing. Proton torpedoes with extra mods, extra mobility where you can do the boost. Parting Gift, where this is one you can just kind of throw at them, and even if it dies, you can then go ahead and drop a proton bomb on the B-Wings, which again, and you see a B-Wing in the picture, is not that great because the B-Wings have a bunch of shields, but that still is a little bit of damage that will help wear them down. And again, the combo is 9 points. If you kill either one of them, they get dramatically weaker. So if you kill one of the B-Wings, you are very likely to win the game. If it's Gina, you're almost guaranteed, depending on how much it took to bring her down, because she's 5 points, and then they lose a lot of their offense if you were able to control it at all. You do also want to check here for ion, because again, if you're able to ionize those ships in the system phase with an ion bomb, or from a previous turn, they are not able to acquire target locks. So that is a really powerful piece of control you can use against the B-Wings, is that ion control. Then we got, of course, Sapphire 2. Again, we'll see a combination of mobility and offense. Yeah. Additional defense dice, too. That is nice. Wow, Sapphire 2, you're good. Yeah, also the option to apply strain. It is weird that they're all at I1. But that's where we've got Mienda's Swarm tactics. Excuse me. It's got Reckless. I like it. Prime Thrusters. Wow. Love it. I love to see this maneuverability on TIE Interceptors. So high evade and a lot of maneuverability is how these ships play around the B-Wings. You could probably split these up and have some go on either side, so they're harder to defend on a flank. And anytime the B-Wings are forced to drop bombs sideways, it's powerful, but it also means they're not getting their free evade tokens. So you can kind of counter their abilities that way. Mouse. Gets free calculate token for evading. Ooh, beautiful. And then has outmaneuver, so that will very much help against the B-Wings. And then has the... Ooh, very fast boost. So that's one that can close aggressively with your opponents. So does not have any linked actions, though. That's unfortunate. Oh, has sensitive controls. There it is. Okay, so you could do a system phase 2 bank or 2 speed barrel roll, which really helps this thing get in position. So a lot of maneuvering around the vulnerable parts of the B-Wings and forcing them to turn places they don't want to go. Soonterfell, of course, has the option to move after attacking. So that's a really strong one. And also he has feedback emitter so that he can go ahead and do that once per game jam. So really strong at initiative 6. He's a really strong piece against the B-Wings, really probably designed to do that because he can, at initiative 6, after all actions have been done, he can then choose what to jam off with that feedback emitter. Yeah, that's really good. Then, of course, you've got your TIE Defenders, and these ones have a combination of durability, just the high evade dice plus shields, and then proton cannons on Jendon, and then the ion cannon on Yor. So Yor will ionize things to have them remove their locks and be more vulnerable the following turn. Jendon will do the proton cannons to force them to spend mods on defense and punch some damage through those shields, especially if he does the spend a shield to throw a 5-die proton cannon, which the first time I ran Gina and Braylen, Gina went down real quick because she took a couple of those shots. I think she took one of the proton cannon shots and then a couple like plinky shots that quickly melted her 9 health. Because it turns out if you take a 5-die double modded proton cannon shot at initiative 6, you're much less scary. So yeah, Jendon is a piece in there, a really, really strong piece, and you can see how he's designed to kind of counter them. And that's this stuff, okay? So this is kind of some concepts. So just to go through the consistent things we saw on these ships, there's high maneuverability, relatively cheap with a lot of durability on this green dice, so even if they're throwing heavily modded attacks at you, there's always a chance you won't be destroyed. So you can tank them in ways that a lot of other lists can't. They have ways to outmaneuver the B-Wings, ways to control it a bit with that ion and strain tokens, but mostly it's that maneuverability and durability is what the Empire ships will do here. So let's take a look at some of the other control pieces we could do. And here I'm going to jump to my dear favorite, my Scum. And so I did do another video that talked about my 2 personal Scum lists when I was in my last video. But here I'm looking at some of the pieces that are particularly strong against the B-Wings specifically. And this also dovetails off of a really fun Reddit post the other day that was talking about ships that apply stress in Scum, which I then kind of ran with to talk a little bit more about ships that can apply tokens in Scum, negative tokens. So I just talked about this Boba build, Mandalorian, Burnout Thrusters, Veteran Tail Gunner, Advanced Slam. Very powerful piece for very rapid maneuvering. So if you need to flank a B-Wing, doing a... What can you do with that? What is Slam? Where's the dial? Yeah, so this guy could do a 3-bank, or a 2 hard, 2 bank in any combination to very quickly clear... Yeah, so 3 straight, 3 bank, 2 straight, 2 hard. There are a lot of different maneuvers you could pull. I think you could do a 3 straight, 3 Talon to get right behind those things and right up their tailpipes. So there are a lot of ways that... I need to check Slam to make sure you can do that, but I'm pretty sure you can do it into a red maneuver. And so very aggressively get into spaces where you shouldn't be and avoid those modded proton torpedoes and force the B-Wings to deal with you or just flank them. So I do still put Boba in here just because of that mobility from the Slam. I put Arleez in here because one thing that Scum is particularly good at is carrying electro chaff missiles. Chaff missiles are a very, very strong piece against the B-Wings because, let's see, what do these do? Yeah, remove each... Oh, it doesn't say what it does. If I recall correctly, electro chaff applies ion, means that the ship in it cannot hold or be locked at all. And then I want to say it does some other stuff as well. And it also is an obstacle. So you don't want to hit it, and it's shot in the start of engagement. No, system phase. You launch it in the system phase, you drop it right in front of those B-Wings, and you throw it with a 3 or a 4, so a 4 straight or a 3 bank template. So landing it is relatively easy. It does take pretty much all of Arleez's loadout, but he's a 3-point ship you could just use for upgrades anyway, or for objectives anyway, which also plays around the B-Wings because they're really bad on objectives. And if someone's sinking 9 points into both B-Wings, they have a lot less They get a total of 11 points left to put it for objective grabbers. So I did want to make sure to highlight Electro Chaff, and especially because Arlise is a 3-point chaff carrier, that's really strong. So just throwing it in there. Then I did throw in Fenrau, because he's an initiative 6 who can carry ion torpedoes. So ion torpedoes optics gives you the free target lock, and then you're shooting an ion torpedo at initiative 6. It's a little bit of a waste on the damage, but it is still a really strong counter to the B-Wings in that you can ionize them before they have a chance to shoot. And that's 4 dice, and then Fen, let's see. Yeah, so he can't use the ion torpedoes in addition to his ability, but still, it's 4 dice that you could have a mod with optics, and then they're pretty much guaranteed to get a good focus in there. Yeah, if you are bringing Fen, that's a strong piece of tech to deal with high initiative ordnance carriers, or heavily modded carriers, because you can just strip their locks. Doesn't work on Luke, but if you ionize Luke, that's still good for you too. So that's certainly one I wanted to mention. Then we've got Leighton with the ion cannon. Now Leighton is initiative 4, I think, 3. So you're not going to stop them from shooting, but you will stop them from their following turn. And you can stack ion control with some other stuff too to kind of help control those ships as well. I wanted to include that though, because I wanted to make sure to highlight the ion cannon is an option. Excuse me. And one thing I've tinkered with is if you're going to bring Fen Rao, you have the points to bring swarm tactics, so you can take any ship in your list and make it I6. So if you have something that can shoot a really heavily modded ion shot, you can make it I6 and do it before the B-Wings have a chance to shoot. So you can really, really nerf their offense that way. Yeah, so that's something to keep in mind too. And then just to kind of visit back on Electro Chaff, Scum have a lot of carriers for Electro Chaff, including every single fire spray. I wouldn't do that with Boba, because you're using so much of his loadout to do it, but you can. But for the 7-pointers, it's a little bit less of a loss to bring that. And I wanted to highlight both chaff missiles, which again are a really strong counter to the B-Wings, and then also thermal detonators. Not because they're a great counter to the B-Wings, although strain is good, but because there are a lot of pieces that are coming up here that use red tokens, any kind of red token, as a resource. And so any way you can also dump red tokens on things is very helpful. So thermal detonators definitely make that cut, and they're cheaper than chaff missiles, although somewhat less effective. And both Kath and Emmon are worthy pieces. Any of the 7-point fire sprays will do the trick on this. I would not bring Hondo. I love Hondo Pilot. His initiative 1 makes him not worth it at 7 points. If he was 6, game on. But I don't know if we'll ever see that. So we got Kath with the Electro Chaff missiles. Then we've got Han, and I wanted, not necessarily Han, but I wanted to highlight the combination of Jabba and false transponder codes, especially at initiative 6. And now he's still got 4 points left where you could put a gunner on there to help with mods. You can put a talent on there for trick shot, whatever else you want to put in there, because you have the title. That's a great one to mention because one of the things that makes Han more consistent, gives him actual meaningful attack dice, is stressing opposing ships. So if you're building a, let's see, yeah, so if you're building a list that's focused around dealing stress, stocks go up dramatically on Han because he will be throwing more dice against stressed ships. And then with the transponder codes, he's again a really strong piece to apply jam 2 ships at initiative 6. And I believe that's been errated, so you can't Jabba false transponder codes, but I would have to double check that. If you can Jabba it, you can just do that every turn and make a real mess of opposing ships. I did want to also highlight Cad again, because with Xanadu Blood, it does give him a bomb slot, so he does have both the missile bomb, so he is also a carrier for chaff clouds. He only gets 4 loadout after, so you can do chaff and proton cannons, which isn't crazy, but it's somewhat limited. He's not my first pick for chaff carrier, but that's a chaff carrier that still has meaningful offense, even if he gets basically nothing else. Then, of course, you've got Afra, who can, at the start of engagement, or before you engage, you may spend 1 green token and 1 charge, of which she has 3 non-recurring. If you do, you may choose another ship at range 0 to 1 that is not stressed. The chosen ship gains 1 stress token. So there are a lot of addendums on that, but Afra is able to just like be, you're stressed. Like, you are stressed. Here you go. No, do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You are just stressed. And in combination with overtune modulators, if you have Jabba in the list, you can overtune modulators a bunch and not lose it. So I really like Afra with overtune modulators and Lando. And then you can also do like IG-88D on there as well, or you can do the sort of classic Han Gunner. Although you can't do that if you have Han Pilot, but Han Gunner, in combination with Lando is really strong, and then also in combination with Rook, Cast Crew is really strong too. That's kind of the standard Afra build. And that in combination with Overtune modulators, or you could throw in 000 there in one of those crew slots instead. All of that plays really nicely with her ability, and then also combos with your squad, kind of passing stuff around. Then, of course, we've got Manaru with Gar Saxon. Gar Saxon Gunner is that if you perform an attack in your forward arc, she's got punishing one, so you could roll the extra die there anyway. Gar Saxon lets you spend a orange or red token to roll an additional die. We've talked about ion control, we've talked about stress, we've talked about strain, we've talked about jam. All of those are ways to trigger Gar Saxon and get offensive benefit out of your debuffing as well. So if you have an extra token on there, you can always remove it to get the extra attack die, which is great. Then we've got Victor Hell, who's a really, really fun one because he's just, after you defend, if you did not roll exactly 2 defense dice, the attacker gains 1 strain token. If you really want to play into that, you can go ahead and slap Cloaking Device on him, the Illicit. It's not great, but if you can get it for 1 or 2 turns, it still will apply additional stress, or just make people not want to shoot this guy. Or you just keep him kind of distant at range 3 and hope that people will take the plinks at him, or you keep him behind rocks. Or you take the crit that lets you roll fewer defense dice or deliberately strain yourself. Like, there are a lot of things you can do with that. And the ability to just be like, well, take a stress is really good. In addition to being a rogue, which is generally just a good chassis, and then having the upgrade slots he's got with that 11 loadout is just nice. Strong piece in there, and he's an easily overlooked pilot. Then, of course, we've got Captain Seavor, who is not in a great spot right now. Even with all the changes, even with Scum stocks up a little bit, you can put cluster missiles on him, but don't do that, especially if you didn't give him targeting computer, which I didn't. But yeah, he has the ability to, while you defend or perform an attack, before the attack dice are rolled, if you are not in the enemy ship's bullseye, you may spend 1. If you do, the enemy ship gains 1 jam token. So he's another aggressive jammer. So you can have multiple jamming ships in your list that will multi-jam the opposing ships. So even if they have multiple mods, you can remove all of them. It's really strong also against other lists that run Reinforce, or able to get multiple tokens. So like Rear Admiral Shiranu, once he starts getting the free reinforces and then is also able to get like a focus token or a lock, you can go ahead and be like, nah, we'll take all that off you. And then I wanted to go ahead and end Scum on my Lord and Savior, Tapusk. This is a pilot I want to work so badly, being the Initiative 5 Hawk, and he's got the perfect loadout for Cutthroat and Hondo, but then he's a 4-point ship with 2 attack dice. It's not terribly durable, but he has a really nice action bar generally, plus Hondo, even if you want to go that far. And his chassis ability keeps getting better because so many more ships are being added to the game with recurring charges and or force. And his ability is, during the end phase, before an enemy ship in your turret arc, which is his only attack arc, recovers 1 recurring charge or force, you may spend 2, so he does it every other turn because he has 2 recurring. If you do, that ship does not recover that charge or that force. So you could turn off Dengar's ability, or you could prevent Vader from recovering force, or you could make sure... Unfortunately, it doesn't work with ships like Kyo because of the timing, that's specifically during the end phase. As I believe Kyo does maneuvers to actually recover force, so it doesn't work there. But a lot of the arcs have some charges they can recover, I think. There are a lot of ships out there recovering recurring charges. Like you could say, like Jendon, you don't get that proton cannon back this turn. He's still scary without that, but still, it's definitely meaningful, and there are a lot of opportunities in lists to go ahead and trigger that. And I want so badly to be able to bring Tapusk with Hondo Crew to use his ability and be just a menace with an Initiative 5 Hondo for the Coordinate Jam. Yeah, really great. So, but we're also just looking at these B-Wings again. So looking at both the Imperial design and then also at Scum, what are the things that take care of these? Mobility, extra attack dice, extra evade dice, jam, applying red tokens. If you're able to extra stress these, it will take them a long time to climb out of that stress, and then they are half as modded the whole time they're stressed, assuming they're not dead. Of course, ion control is really strong, so if you have ion bombs, especially a way to throw ion bombs, or something fast that can drop them out the front. Hilariously, one that I forgot is... Let me actually go to this. This goober. Something I forgot that just completely ruins these guys' day, which is super funny. If they become meta monsters before Worlds, take a close look at Moralo Eval. His ability is if you would flee, which is fly off the board edge. You may spend 1 charge, and he has 2 non-recurring, but you could give him Cutthroat. If you do, place yourself in reserves instead. At the start of the next planning phase, place yourself within range 1 of the edge of that play area that you fled from. So you're in your deployment zone. Turn 1, you just turn off and you just pop off the board. Spend your charge. Turn 2, you can come back in your opponent's deployment zone, and the dial's not bad to come screaming in on a 3 bank or a 3 hard or a 4 straight. And suddenly you are right behind those B-Wings with a 180-degree arc and a ship that will take forever to bring down while the rest of your list comes in and attacks from the front. Gives you great objective control. If they react to it, then either in the following turn or after you see what's going on, instead of actually screaming in, you can go off again and then pop back in their edge too. So it only works twice per game unless you get Cutthroat, but it is just a hilarious combo to give people a really, really hard time. Yeah, I would love to see Moralo used more. It does suck that he's 7 points, but I get why, because of the ridiculousness of what he can do. But if people are running position-heavy jousters like these B-Wings, they don't have a rear arc. They don't turn around very well. They are not that durable if you get close, especially if they're not shooting you back, because they've only got the 1 evade die. Moralo is somebody who could pretty much hard counter them. And it's kind of fun to play on objectives, too. He's just an interesting piece. So wanted to make sure to highlight that. He also has 20 loadout, 18 even if you drop on Cutthroat there. So there is quite a bit that you can do here. Yeah, so I wanted to throw him out there. But anyway, looking back at these. So again, that mobility, ion control, jam, stress, token control, tractor. If you can tractor these things out of position away from each other, they're real nasty. Or just outplay them and focus on objectives and try just not to get hit. Really, really strong pieces, but they have really strong limitations as well. And they're not unbeatable. You just have to kind of look for that. Some other tech that I've been seeing come up a lot is, of course, the like First Order has the TIE Whispers. We'll run roughshod over these things because they're so fast and jam out the wazoo. Finally have an opportunity to apply multiple jam. Rebels, of course, have Chopper. Chopper Pilot can just apply multiple jams. Resistance has Ferrosphere Paint, so if Gina or Braylen are acquiring those locks, they could get extra stress for doing it. Even if they take a ship out for it, then they would be basically nerfed for the following turns. Empire, of course, has tons of mobility and extra damage. Talked about Scum, talked about Rebels. Two that came up, so Separatists. Not in a great spot. But let me tell you, these ships do not like being hit with Discord missiles if you can land one on them. That would be a pretty funny way to take one of these down. Separatists are just kind of in a rough spot, but these are... Yeah, I'm sure Separatists have a counter to these. I don't know what it would be. The thing I could think of is your block of rogues. You get 5 Separatist rogues, which nobody has 5 rogues, but hey, if you do, why not? 5 Separatist rogues running in there. You've got the ability to share tokens. You've got the ability to line up a bunch of proton cannons. You've got a couple that will make... What is it? You've got the guarded condition. The Magna Guard protectors can make one of them tougher. And they've got that network calculations. They can all bring proton cannons. Yeah, a block of those could probably out-joust this. Just because there are a bunch of them, and they would be able to punch through the B-Wings pretty quickly, even if it cost them 1. And I think only 1 would die in that joust. So that's not the craziest idea for Separatists. It's not great against a lot of other stuff, but it's not the craziest idea either. And then Resistance, or Republic, excuse me, is one that comes up a lot. Republic has the arc block, which could just tank this. So if you're looking at your dedicated arc block, the ones that just park in the middle of the board, they are probably better jousters than these even still. And then if you throw Padme in there, the classic like triple arc Padme list, then that really limits the utility of the extra offense from these. So what if she's double modded, she can only reroll 1 die, or only mod a single focus. Like it's, there are ways to hold them back in Republic as well. If you fly something AC, then you really want to rely on that mobility on the system phase moves to get around these guys. It's going to be challenging. One thing that these guys will make really sad is if they have the nice wide arc and you've got the homing missile, proton torpedo, double mods against a Jedi, that Jedi is probably dead. So you want to be extremely careful with your positioning there, but that's always true of Jedi. And if you support them, they might be okay. But yeah. And that was one of the key people. One of the people that was most frustrated about playing against these specifically said he'd started playing Jedi, not just Republic, Jedi, which are very expensive and very AC, and that in general is not in a great spot right now, unless it's a ship like the newly redesigned Sunterfell, who was designed with this meta in mind, to where he has some reposition abilities that make him somewhat less dangerous than traditional Sunterfell, but more survivable because he's quick and maneuver and repositions at initiative 6. There are not a lot of aces out there that can compete with that, or like Kylo Ren and the Silencer's durability. I do still think that with positioning and someone like Anakin, if you're running Delta 7B Anakin, this is going to be a tough matchup, but see if you can get Ion Control in the list, see if you can get Jam in the list, see if you can get some bombs in the list, and then for Anakin, focus on getting behind these B-Wings. Because while they are able to turn around, they don't want to, especially if they're stressed, because their turnaround maneuvers all stress them, and they're kind of weird maneuvers. You're going to have to tank a couple bombs, but focus on getting behind them. And that would be my advice to kind of deal with these guys with Jedi Aces. And yeah, I think that's it. We'll leave it there. Hopefully this was helpful. Until next time.